Hello everyone, how are you? Welcome to Qualitative Wednesday. I know we kind of skipped a week and I told you that the reason why that happened was because last week I was delivering a webinar to that I hoped that you got invited because I hope you are on the Quali Q email list. But if you are not, it's never too late. Join us. You can find the form to submit on the website and sign up so you get our newsletters every week where I summarize what's going on with the blog and invite you to the discussion we have here every Wednesday. So with that being said, it's my pleasure to actually join today because I feel that I am as much as a reader and a student who really tried to read yesterday's blog post with that openness to learn. So if you haven't checked out the blog post, it was written by a colleague, someone that I deeply respect and trust. She was the first person to actually work with me with Quali Q, and her name is Tanya L'Heureux. And Tanya is doing her PhD, and she wrote from a phenomenological feminist perspective about embodiment in qualitative health research. Hi, Jane! And I am so proud to say that I think she gave us so much to think about and to reflect because it's a really heavy topic. And the reason why I asked Tanya to help me out was when I started studying affective methodologies and I was trying to encourage you to embrace that process in your reflexivity process. Sounds like a lot of processes in one sentence. But when I started doing that, I realized how much I didn't know about a topic that I want to know and I want to teach. So of course, as I'm reading and learning, I acknowledge that I needed help. And Tanya has in her research, her PhD work and her master's work, done a lot more readings related to embodiment, and especially in her journey as a dietitian and trying to examine her privileges, her paradigm, where she's coming from, who she is. And that whole positionality and reflexivity piece has been really big and important in her research and in her career as a dietitian. So because of that, when she first wrote the blog post and came to me, it was more in that general like lived experience and embodiment in qualitative research. And that's when I asked her, can you help me help people who are doing qualitative health research better understand what this is? So if you go and you read Tanya's full blog post on the website, you will see that she explored embodiment, the lived experience, how our bodies, we are both subjects and objects in our research, and both us as researchers, but also our participants. She also talks about erotic subjectivity and the spatial temporal aspect of our research and all the steps that we take to conduct our qualitative health research. Those concepts are highly complex, and in all sincerity, I'm not going to repeat a lot of what she wrote here because I want you to go there. She provides some really rich references and some really interesting full citations from the readings that she included in the blog post. So there is so much meat to yesterday's blog post, and I invite you to definitely read the questions that she posed to encourage you to think about embodiment in your qualitative health research. One thing I will say though, and that's actually a parenthesis and an added perspective to yesterday's blog post, is that I have supported students in the past that learned about phenomenology in a qualitative research course. And that idea of investigating the lived experience was what stuck with them. And when they were writing their research questions and starting their research, they said, oh, I'm doing phenomenology. And the reason why is because I'm investigating, exploring the lived experience of XYZ, like of the whatever the patients or the participants were. And I think one thing I want you to read, especially if you're new to qualitative health research and you have seen phenomenology, and what stuck with you was that idea of the lived experience, I want you to go and read Tanya's blog posts and see what lived experience means, especially from someone who is writing from that phenomenological perspective. The lived experience is the embodiment piece, is really how our bodies perform, are affected, and affect our research. And whenever I see someone saying they are doing phenomenology and they are new to qualitative research and new to qualitative health research, I always caution people to take a step back and rethink. Why is that? Because I think that understanding embodiment and the philosophical underpinnings of phenomenology and embodiment is highly complex and requires devotion and studying that, in my opinion, this is my opinion, is beyond the scope of most master's students and projects I have ever seen. If you have a master's student or someone who is doing a short time or with a short time frame in a project that has really defined objectives and maybe evaluative objectives within health research, and they say they will be doing phenomenology because they're investigating the lived experience, I would caution you to take a step back and challenge what they are seeing as the lived experience within that phenomenological perspective. I think it's one of the things that I definitely have sat in discomfort in even conferences. Because of my area and my background being in nutrition, I have attended a really large conference in the US for a couple of years, and when it was the experimental biology included the American Society for Nutrition, and now they're the American Society for Nutrition is separate and it has its own conference when conferences happen in person, now virtually. But in any case, I have sat in presentations where people had samples of 25, 30 participants, and they would say that they had done phenomenology, and I would explain that they were investigating the lived experiences of participants with diabetes or with different health conditions. And to me, that was always a red flag as well, because as you will read in the blog, when you try to uncover your subjectivity, your body, and your erotic subjectivity as well as you're doing the research, and you try to uncover your participants as well, it's really, really hard to do it in an in-depth way with a large sample. It's really complex and beautiful work that requires a lot of time, studying, and investment. So that's why when I see studies that have such large, in my opinion, as well, 25 is not large for quantitative, but for a qualitative study, that's a really large sample to be claiming that you delved into that lived experience. And you will be able to understand that when you read the blog post, because she goes deep in explaining what that lived experience is in terms of embodiment, the erotic subjectivity, and that whole concept of the spatio-temporal aspect of our bodies and our research. I really enjoyed the questions at the end of the blog post, and I encourage you to take some time to not just feel overwhelmed by all of them. I'm not sure how many. I can check very quickly. There are quite a few. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So basically, potentially, like, you can choose between 12 questions that she asks you to reflect on. I think 12 at once might be very overwhelming, but I would encourage you, whatever you are in your research stage and process, to go to those questions and see, what can I incorporate now as I am trying to understand my affection, my erotic subjectivity as I'm doing this research, and what can I really use to enhance my reflexivity and understand where I'm coming from as I'm doing my research. I truly believe that by doing that, you don't have to necessarily be doing phenomenology or have that same perspective of phenomenological feminist. And that's what Tanya wrote from. You can embrace aspects of what she had in that blog post from other paradigms and from other theoretical perspectives. And it will enrich your process as a researcher and potentially help you enrich the experiences of your participants as well. So I hope this whole blog post and what I shared with you today encourages you to really embrace and think and reflect on what you can incorporate in your qualitative health research. It's interesting because as I was reading her blog post, she, in the beginning, the first few paragraphs, she talks about how often we realize that our minds are catching up to our bodies. And in the past few years, I had to do a lot of work to overcome symptoms that were kind of parallel to PTSD after my daughter was diagnosed with cancer. And I have really been able to identify in my journey instances where I was in places that were very traumatic for me, and my body felt so nervous, my heart was racing, my breathing was not normal, and it takes reflection and it takes purposeful thinking. Why is my body, so my body, feeling what I am ignoring in my mind? So it's very interesting, and I think if you think about that as yourself, as your experience as a person, as the researcher, as potentially the patient or the family of a patient in other circumstances, you might be able to really have that recollection that I have had many times of identifying how my body reacted and my mind kind of like caught up with my body after I took some time to actually think of like what just happened there. So it's interesting because I think it's a very rich exercise in all instances and in all, I would say, spheres that we are as people, as researchers, as human beings, as participants, all the roles that we might play. That might be a better way of saying it. So enjoy the blog post. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Jane, for watching with me and being here live. I am super pumped. Qualitative Research Blueprint, our signature course, our spotlight course that is all about fostering rigor in qualitative health research, will be launched at the end of October. As of October 19th, I will probably be in your face a lot more often, and I am going to be covering like topics on Facebook Lives. I'll be here more often. I haven't decided what time of the day yet. So if you have a preference for when you would like to have a chance to join live or to watch, let me know. Send me a direct message or send us an email at info@qualiq.ca, and we look forward to hearing from you. So have a really good week, and we'll be back here next week. And so I'm gonna say this with a lot of excitement because that's how I am. You will also love next week's blog post because we have another guest and it's another treat, and it's a qualitative health research project that was amazing and knocked the ball out of the park in so many ways. And it's the type of research that we wish we can kind of like have and do in our lifetime. And my friend Megan Lefebvre, she worked with HIV patients in Edmonton, Alberta, and her research was phenomenal. And it was for many reasons, and she will be sharing with you in the blog post. She recorded a video and it's very cool, and you'll have a chance to see many aspects of her research. And next Wednesday, when we join each other here, I'll be going through the blog post and kind of like signaling to you what I think were the factors that made Megan's research take off the way it did. And I hope that is something that you can take away and kind of try to mimic or try to think of ways of mimicking in your own work. So have a good day, and we'll talk soon. Bye for now.